YouTube. Today it is Wednesday the 7th of June and I'm on my way to my last tip of the day, and it just so happens to be my second job of the day, so it hasn't been a very fruitful day again, but let me explain what I've done today and then I'll explain at the end a couple of things that I want to show you about tips if you're new to this job. So I started the morning, I was tramping overnight in a lovely gravel car park in the middle of nowhere really, in the countryside, just between Holt and the coast, Norfolk. And I was due to pick up a load to go to Birmingham this morning, and the time was 10 o'clock, which I thought was that is a bit late really for a start for your first job of the day, but I had no other choice. If you've watched yesterday's video, you'll know how that day ended, and so I was quite fortunate to get this job in the end, so I was very grateful to have it. Anyway, so I actually went a bit earlier. I left the tramping site about 9:15, got to my pick-up place about 9:25 this morning, and then picked up the load of photographic equipment going to Birmingham. Now for the figures for that job, I got paid £160, and the mileage on the CX, it was down as being 148 miles for a small wheelbase job, a van, and I arrived at about 1 o'clock and got unloaded in Birmingham. So I was then looking for work, and to remind you, or to tell you for the first time, I'm looking to get down towards the Swansea Exeter area this week to do my pickups for my other job that's booked in for Thursday and Friday. So I've been looking all week at any jobs to get me towards Swansea or Exeter. Now from my experience, I thought today I really needed to get myself over to the South Wales or Cornwall area, which is why I was really pleased to get the Norfolk to Birmingham job this morning. So I was looking for jobs, initially like jobs to go to those areas, and there was a job that was on the system that was on really early in the morning, early in the morning, for a 4 o'clock pickup that day, going from Kettering to Swansea. I think it was really good, or it was close to Swansea. It might have been Port Talbot maybe. And I put a bid on there of £1 a mile. It was something like £160 I put a bid on, and that stayed on there all day. And I thought, well, I'm going to go past Kettering on the way to my drop off from Holt to Birmingham, but I can't pick it up on the way because my van's full. So my option was to get to Birmingham and then to come back to Kettering, either unloaded. Actually, no, I remember now. It's going from Kettering to Plymouth. Yes. So my plan was to get to Birmingham, unload, see what time it was, see what jobs there were, and aim to get a job going from Birmingham to Kettering or that area, to then ring this shipper for the Kettering to Plymouth job. Now, no jobs came up going back towards Kettering from Birmingham. And I did contemplate ringing the shipper up, but then I realised, but then it was about 4 o'clock, and maybe actually more like 4:30 maybe. By the time this thing had left, it went off the system. I think it became a cancelled job in the end. Anyway, that's the point. So later on in the day, it was cancelled. So I actually think it probably wasn't really a real job. I'm never quite sure when jobs are cancelled if it ever existed. In this case, when it was on all day and then was cancelled sort of about 4:30, my hunch is the customer hadn't necessarily agreed to a price that everyone had bid for, and so he just took it off, the shipper just took it off the system. I have no idea how these things happen. It could be the customer changed their mind, it could be a variety of reasons, but it hasn't gone back on that I've been aware of. Anyway, the point I'm mentioning is that was an ideal job for me, and I was kind of planning my day around ringing a shipper on that job. And when it got cancelled, I was really pleased I didn't do anything more substantive, like, which I was going to do, drive down to Kettering on the way back from Birmingham and pick it up. So that was a bit of a near miss, that I didn't waste time and energy on that one. And I find, as a bit of an aside, sometimes there's the ideal job on the system, and my judgment gets skewed. I'm thinking, I want that job, I'll travel to that job, I'll put a low price on that job. And I really need to get out of the habit of doing that, because sometimes it's just, you can't guarantee you're going to win it. It might not be as good as you think it is, it might disappear. So there's a whole lot of reasons why these ideal jobs don't necessarily pan out. And you can't really, I don't think you can really bend your own rules for doing this job for the off chance of perhaps getting an ideal job. There are exceptions to everything. What I'm saying is, in this case, it would have been wrong for me to have bent my rules to get this job, because it was cancelled. And it wasn't quite an ideal job, because it was going to Plymouth, which is a bit further than I need to go into Devon. Right, so I found myself in Birmingham, looking for jobs on the CX, and it was reasonably busy as I got to Birmingham. There were jobs popping up every few moments, in batches, I would say. That's a batch of jobs come up, and then it was quiet for a bit, and then the batches come up. And I was at the start being quite strict. For about the first hour I was being quite strict. I was thinking only things that were going towards Swansea or Exeter I would bid on. And when I bid on stuff, I was bidding like £1 a mile, either for a short, small van job. And I wasn't getting anything. And I could see why, because I was probably overbidding a bit. And then as the time went on, I started to widen my search field. I thought, well, I could, I suppose, get a job going anywhere and then aim to get to Swansea or Exeter on Thursday morning or Thursday midday. Don't have to get it tonight. So I was even looking at stuff going sort of northwards from Birmingham, but nothing really caught my eye that I could really feel was worth doing for going out that way. I've been on a couple of jobs going back towards the East Midlands, because I thought I could just go home and sleep in my bed tonight. But I didn't get those jobs either. And so it's getting now about 3:30, and I was thinking, well, this is silly. It's 2.5 hours doing this. I need something. And I was beginning to think, well, how am I ever going to get a job? What am I going to do? I mean, my parents do live just south of Birmingham, so there was a place, and they've got spare rooms there. I could have stayed there for the night, but doing one job would have been very disappointing after only doing one job yesterday. Anyway, so I kept persisting, getting a bit more worried as the time got on. Got to 4 o'clock, and I was now thinking, right, this is make or break. Just bid on anything. I was bidding on stuff going across Birmingham, £50 minimum charge jobs, trying to just get a second job anywhere. I thought I might just stay in Birmingham. And anyway, I got then a job, came up going from Birmingham to Newport, and I bid on it, and I got it. And it was 96 miles, and I bid £100 for a long wheelbase job. Now I think that's a bit cheap, but I needed a job, and considering where I was in the day, where I was in the country, I'm happy to get that job for £100. It gets me much closer to my jobs tomorrow. I've got time either tonight or tomorrow morning to perhaps get a little small job in before I do my big pickups. So it's a means to an end, and also it makes today much better than it could have been otherwise. And yesterday was a really difficult day. I would say that in my opinion the CX was quite quiet. Today I've not really got enough experience to back that up with any kind of long-term knowledge. I've only been doing this for about 3 months. I really need to be doing this for at least a year to know for sure if it's a quiet or busy time. So I got the job. I'm on my way to Newport now on the M5 from Birmingham to Newport. I've got a load of air compressed tubing to go down to a business. So I'll give you my stats for today, because I forgot to do it for yesterday. If you want to know my stats for yesterday, I did put it into the description of yesterday's video, so to keep it all tied up together. And having done that for that video. I am wondering I should do that for every video moving forward, but put my stats in the description, because really that's what I think is the main advantage to me doing this for new drivers, is it gives you some real world data to rely on. So I think I might start doing that, put the stats in. My only concern about doing that is it might encourage people just to read the description and not look at the videos. But I suppose, to be fair, I don't think I care about that. If it's going to help people, I'm fine. If you get it, however you get the information you get this useful, I'm alright with that. So, looking at my spreadsheet for today, I started work at 9:15, and I'm going to finish about 8 o'clock. I've judged about 8 o'clock-ish. So my day today is going to be 10 3/4 hours roughly. By the time I finish work today, I will have driven 266 miles, and at an average fuel rate of 13.09 pence per mile. That means that I would have spent £34.81 on fuel, so nearly £35. My earnings for today are £160 from this morning's jump from Norfolk to Birmingham, and £100 from Birmingham to Newport, so that's £260 total, 260. That leaves me my net earnings after fuel for today as £225, 225. It's not quite target, but much better than yesterday and the day before. In fact, Monday and Tuesday were, Monday and Tuesday were quite bad. Okay, there's my stats. I want to leave you on a lesson that I've learnt in the past. A couple of things that I want to share with you if you're new to this game. The first thing is what I try and do, particularly when there's unusual loads. So today, for example, I had some photographic equipment, and it was in boxes and it was pipe. It's metal tripods, big tripods, really heavy stuff, really quite high level filming stuff. And so, my tip is, I sometimes ask the customer at the pickup place, is there anything I should know about this load? So if I'm going to hospital, for example, in particular, I ask them, is there anything I need to know about this load? Just give them a chance to tell me if it's fragile or it needs to be a certain way up, or if they've got any concerns. It's a chance for them to tell me any concerns they have about this delivery process. And I take on board what they say, and then I will strap or put blankets down or load the work in a way which it makes them feel comfortable with what I'm doing. Today I was asking, they gave me a couple of lights that are for like films, and he said these are the things that are most delicate. So I asked him what he meant by that, and he really meant it should roll about in your van. So I strapped those things down so they wouldn't move, and I showed him. I said, "Are you okay with that?" And he said, "That's fine." So my tip is to kind of use the customer's expertise about what you're taking and get them to help you with what sort of strapping or load conditions they should be. And the other example I would give is when I took some eyes from one hospital to another, I asked, "Is there anything I should know about this?" And the answer was no, but by asking, it reassured me that there's nothing in particular I should be worried about or concerned about. And then the last little tip I want to give you if you're not new to this job is something I've learnt over the last few months. It's if you've got an amendment to the amount of money you're going to receive. So, for example, you might have there was a day when I was staying over in a hotel because the place had closed. It wasn't my fault that it was closed, and I had to get it delivered the next day. So in that example, I had negotiated with the shipper, and they paid for my hotel and like a £10 breakfast, and that was added on to my fee, my invoice for that job. But what I did was, so we agreed this the night before I delivered. I then went and delivered the next day, and I do what I always do, which is I upload a photo of my pod and I close off the booking by creating an invoice at the end of the job. I usually create an invoice and get it emailed off straight away. Now, apparently, because I did that, the shipper wasn't able to amend the amount of money that he was going to pay me for that job. So I had to, in that example, create an invoice manually which overrode the one I emailed. And it's happened a few times, like with waiting time. If you've got waiting time, you might not get it agreed until you finish the job, because you might be waiting at the start and the end. And if you have got wait time to add on, you must call the shipper and get them to change CX before you mark the delivery as loaded, as delivered. And that isn't obvious for new drivers. And if you just call them, get them to change the amount, and then mark the load as delivered, then you can check that this is the right amount before you close off the booking. So that's my couple of tips for you. Thank you very much for listening to my video. What have you learned today?